はい、お願いします。Okay. Well, just take a hand. We're gonna move a hand. I'm used to heavy. And heavy is kind of out there. Things are heavy out there. It's slow. You use either arms, and you can do something with both arms. Flow kind of has its own feel. And a lot of times you say, okay, I'm heavy. How do I get to flow? But certain days, flow is just there. So what are the tricks of the trade? For one thing, not just arms, but flow is a full body. On a good day, just move the arms, the rest of the body is kind of chiming in. We don't notice it on a good day. Bad day, we're looking for what's out there. We're all just out there in the arms. The flow. The flow for me, there's an opening process because I start heavy too. Okay? The flow feels lighter. It's just a different texture to it. And we spread out a little bit more so flow. And we're starting with the arms, but it's full body, full body, full body. You find your hips are moving, and you're going one way, your hips are turning that direction, going the other way. And out there, I'm starting heavy and trying to get somewhere. A lot of flow is more, you're starting from the inside out. Inside out, not outside trying to get back in. So you're breathing, and I'm in a flow. That's more rhythmic. You find shape. They always have shapes. I like the circle. And I like the counter circle. And you'll find the flows have beats. A lot of times you say express elevator, trapdoor, up, down, boom. So as you start to move, now for example here, the circle is turning into spiral, counter spiral. And I'm trying to figure it out from the words, what was more interior? Your mind kind of quiet. If it's too noisy here, you get stuck in the outer, the heavy. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Standing. Okay? Now standing, I feel the weight of my body, and all of a sudden, but just start to relax a bit. Open a bit. Just follow with your body. Your body, on the general pattern. That's what techniques are supposed to be. But for example, there, I could follow that and go the other way. You can follow the flow down. And I can't fly to the ceiling, but my energy can open to the ceiling. So there are various ways you can. And what you see is oftentimes not the flow, you establish a form, a pattern of movement. But there's a difference between, because the pattern of movement either gets way too heavy or sometimes gets too diffuse. So pattern of movement, but there's a flow. Okay? And flow is very free. One side of the body to go to the other side of the body very easily. You can kind of feel the flow sinking deeper into the ground, if you like. It shows have a connection. But, right? Too heavy. Too diffuse. Things like heaven and earth are supposed to teach us about this flows that direction and flows that direction. It can work as a team. That's in fact right here, for example, we start this way. The pattern of movement, he's holding, he has Sway against flow, a little different. The flow is, I get drawn into weight out there. No, the flow is, you feel it in your movement, but it's an interior. That's what we're doing like this. I use this to flow up, flow down, they can just the same. Okay? Let's warm up with the Tenchi stretch. Yeah. 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 The flow. That'd be other hand. Well, it's just fine, for example. Let's go. It's just a flow can switch track. Yeah. Let's go this way, go this way. And there's so from this whole effort, there's an awkward moment. But part of it is just seeing everything. The EQ is a really good proxy. Okay? What are we going to do next? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Oh, let's pour more of this receptive of it. See what I mean? Receptive. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Receptive. You're looking at something. Let's say this is enlightenment. You keep reaching for it, grab it, hold on to it, feel it. You feel a difference right there. Other than that, you stay a little too mental. Well, you feel the heaviness start that motion. What was interior? Breathe. Oh, what happened right there? Something happened there. If you look for heavy, you get heavy. You don't look for heavy or you don't look for flow. It starts in here. And then everything out there kind of, let's say, lightens up. It frees up. So if I go, okay, so now, what's that right there? Everything's tensing. You're getting used to weight. I'm looking for weight. I can grab and feel. That's weight. This will be different. Yeah. Now, when you look at your wrist, it's heavy. What's inside you is neither heavy nor light. It appears to be lighter because you contrast it with heavy. Flow is flow. Yeah. I'm looking for heavy. Well, loosen the wrist up. Oh, yeah. Now, you notice that but your hips were in that motion. Now, slow it down. It's kind of you're moving this speed. I'm moving that speed. I'm moving this speed. I'm moving that speed. Counterintuitive. Slow is neither fast nor slow, otherwise it's going to be slow. Slow it down though. Now get your hips in that motion. Feel the ground. Okay, good. Well, you see the receptive of it. You can go the way you're going, but The world of weight brings in a limited level of awe. What is this? Neither heavy nor light, fast nor slow. Good. Now, that's good, isn't it? Okay, now see the difference right there? What happens is if I'm looking for heavy out there, I get stuck in a limited eye. Easier. Usually starts in here. So hold on to what's out there. It's heavy out there. Okay? All right. Yeah. Now, flow is neither heavy nor light, but flow is slow. Most people say, oh, it's so much lighter. No, flow is slow. It's just that we habitually go heavy out there. Okay? You see the difference of it a little bit like this? Well, it's folks starts from here. And if I'm out there, I'm used to heavy. Okay, flow starts out there. I'm in heavy already because I'm looking for it. You don't start flow with heavy. You start flow with going a little bit more interior, and then it's flow heavy or light. It's neither. It's flow. This is two-time whatever. Superman still has we can lift it. He's in a Kryptonian flow. We're not quite that good. All right. It flows for him. Okay, no problem. We're not quite that. We're not quite that good. But
Clark Kent has flow.
well, Clark Kent has to pretend he doesn't, but yeah, yeah, he has it. Okay. Okay, so standing for a bit. Yeah, if you kind of, like a lot of times we use words like flow, you feel lighter, freer, but we're still basing that on heavy. What is it, okay, things are heavy, they're difficult, they're flow. Oh, I wouldn't call flow light or heavy, because I say I feel lighter, I'm using the reference of heavy to light. And flow is flow. But the body will feel looser. You can use the body as a reference point. Looser. Your joints move freer. I'm thinking heavy thoughts, which means the mind's way too active. That's what's going on. We're going to drop a couple of decibel levels. So the mind's not quite so held by that interior dialogue. Lots of thinking, things are heavy, too complex. Your breathing starts to be freer. Your breathing starts to get freer, your heartbeat syncs up to your breathing. There's a lot of good stuff that happens. We use the body as a bit of a reference for flow, but flow is flow. I'm trying to figure all that out and take the information. This gets too active, and what happens, I get caught up with, I know a lot about flow. Why am I having such trouble? Okay. Oh. You think? You go into the heavy realm. You can't not think, but you can be easier with your thoughts. Easier with yourself. Okay? Now for here, for example. Flow is very smooth. In other words, what's kind of nice about a flow is it's contagious. He's heavy. Oh. You look at the Osensei movies or videos, he's in some sort of super flow. And he's usually kind of very, he's smiling, he's having a great time. And everybody else, they come in this way. No, they're kind of looking at him, and he's just before he's kind of super flow. We're not quite there. But we want to kind of be easier with ourselves, breathe a little fuller. Anytime I go out there, I'm using heavy as a reference. When you start to do that, your flow IQ goes. That's well, the reference point is here. Yeah, my body feels looser, freer. My mind less encumbered with a lot of what's still going on, but I'm not just kind of I'm not just the thoughts are more transparent. I realize that's all they are. If people are saying bad things about you, they're probably stupid people. You want to listen to them, you give them strength. But Jesus, our interior dialogue is the same way. So what we're going to do here, okay. Flow doesn't set, but it has some ground to it. Oh, it has some base, but it's not a set base. Well, it's very deep. Flows are still going down. But as they're going down, they sort of pick up the energy go up. So it's, you know, you're kind of the nexus point, you know? So we're just gonna offer. Okay, so let's go through the whole thing right there. Keep the same partner. Yeah, some people push me. Now it's like we're getting shut out. If you can, a little bit more circle. Okay, a little bit more circle. Now, let's just, keep holding, keep holding, keep holding. Well, you missed the punchline. Okay, well, that's well. No, those, all right. When I grab, you begin to feel my weight. If you react to it, and you say, okay, I should be lighter. If you flow lighter, flow is not heavy or light. Okay. So, just breathe. Just flow starts in here. It doesn't start out there. When we get caught up out there trying to measure it, okay, let's start. Okay, you have a TV set, and you're feeling tired. You got to go all the way, turn it on, and change it. No, you have a remote. It's a lot easier, isn't it? Okay. Now see, right there, your elbows are tightening already. And now, right there, your wrist is tightened. Easier. Easier. See, it's not light or heavy, but we measure it against heavy. But then we get way too active, I, and it's a little more transparent. Okay, good. Now you have the other hand, now hold it for a bit. Now the other hand complements it. Now you turn your hips back and you have a movement. No, you go that way. And the flow is not just fast and slow. It's just, you know, but you accomplish things in a much quicker way with the flow. Right. Like for example. So that's better. You're starting at a better place. You feel it? Yeah, it's a little bit more you. Of course, what am I going to do out there? What do I have to do out there? No, but what do we have to do in here? Breathe slower, slow it down. Oh, he's doing the circle. It's not, he's absorbing, right? I mean, one thing about working with police officers is you don't want them to escalate the situation. at the first, without losing control of the situation, you want them to de-escalate, which is what we call receptive. And then if they need to, then of course there are things they need to do sometimes. If they go in there with the idea that they're going to escalate whatever it is, when you're here, well, I got a gun and a nightstick and a badge, and I got, you know, that's probably not good. So what I'm saying a little bit like, you're good. Yeah. And then if they need, they have a badge and a gun and a nightstick, and then, you know, there's certain things you probably shouldn't do, like choke. I don't think that's really a last minute, you know, last ditch effort. Or a gun or a nightstick. But you see what I mean? We don't want it to escalate. But you also don't want to let the whole thing go out of control. Good. And the flow almost doesn't work for you. All right? You know, we go out there to measure. You measure it here. That's a very difficult one. Measure in here. Okay?
I need to go back there, but
yeah,
they would be different.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Keep on.
Thank you.
And again, the flow is not heavy or light. You see how you're going here?
Okay.
Right? So there's one quick aspect. Got it? What is flow? Well, something that's interior. We see a pattern of movement becomes a form. Then we, you know, but when I'm form oriented, I'm carrying a little bit more weight than I should. But there's not any less weight there. My arm doesn't all of a sudden weigh more or less, but it's coming, it's a different dimension right there. See the difference right there? So just this motion, this side, this motion, lighter. And the other thing happens, I go this way, it's fast. This is slow. This is slow. Now, a flow is not slow or fast. Flow is slow. Slow is slow. It's neither fast or heavy or light, but it appears that way because we measure it with our stupid minds before saying, okay, let's find out who we are. Okay, you see what I mean? I get a little easier with who I am. Flow says, okay. You spend all your time blocking me out with this or this or this. Finally, you're letting me in. And so, you know, one of the things is form gets too good. I remember one thing that Nadoso said, I was just back from Japan, and you know, I used to go train with sponsors with Frank Lansman, and occasionally, Nadal would come over, they would have a meeting. It's probably a CAA meeting now, but you know, they're like two of the major teachers. Well, I was there, you know, just being a kid that would train, right? But what was interesting is I think they kind of looked at me, you know, I mean, not Osensei said, well, look at the Aikido films of Osensei. He said, you know, the people are doing the technique better than him. I said, no. And so I started looking at it, and yeah, they did the technique better than Osensei, right? You know, but for Osensei, you know, it kind of, it didn't make any sense because the people were flying around, he was doing nothing. And then those Osensei said, you look at the people are doing the form better than him. I went, yeah. Yeah, so go this one. Yeah, for him, he was, I wouldn't call what he was doing, I called it a super flow. Which we're kind of not in, but, you know, we kind of put that as a marker. You know, if you get further here, maybe we can approach that. Not just flow, but super flow. Not just flow, but super flow. Not just flow, but super flow. Give it a name, super flow. I don't know exactly what else to call it. We called it Tommy or whatever to get it different ways to do it. There's an old man, you know, he's just moving along the ground, and people were flying, and the other people were doing the phone better. Yeah. So what I'm saying a little bit is just that now. That little extra click. A little extra click. Okay. Now, we were kind of mentioning something to Steve and the group over here. You know, I just get back from Japan and I'm teaching usually, you know, in the evening. So I used to go to Stanford University because Frank Duran simply taught a day class. And so usually we would, you know, go on Fridays and we used to, you know, after class, we'd go eat Chinese food. It was a lot of fun. Okay, essentially Robert Nadeau would come in and they would do, we were kind of joking, but they would have a meeting about the Aikido in the area. They were running San Francisco and that was a major school. They, you know, they were contacting Hobu Dojo to Aikido in San Francisco. PAA didn't quite exist yet, right? So I was there at basically an area meeting, you know, I'm going, what's this? But, you know, after the meeting, the docente and I would talk and I'd ask him questions about O-sensei because he knew O-sensei personally. And so he said something to me that was really interesting. He said, watch, in those days it was the movie. They didn't have it on video yet. Now you can just tune into YouTube and you can watch O-sensei on there, you know. But he said, watch. And you'll find that if you look at the other people, they're doing the technique better than him. I said, no. Then I started looking at it, and you know, it depends on how you frame it. Okay, a form is a pattern of motion. But it usually is a pattern of motion which is supposed to help you integrate certain things about yourself. Okay? It's a form. And I sort of got what Nadeau Sensei said, in that, you know, the people were doing the form better than O-sensei. Doing the form better than O-sensei. What was O-sensei doing? Well, you know, I can't find, he was doing stuff like that. And people were doing crazy things. You know, somebody he was like, oh, the people were doing the form better. Why? Because, you know, they were better at moving heavier things. You know, since it was coming from something, you know, now he wasn't coming from flow, he was coming from super flow. Okay? So I had to look at that and I had to say, you know, he's right in what Nadeau Sensei said. Because the people were doing the technique better. What was he doing better? He was willing to stand in this place within himself where all these energies flow through him. And therefore, if somebody comes in this direction, okay, you know, let's come to this. It just seemed to work out. But then you get better, smoother, faster, get more rank. Because that's just the way to, you know, it's like being in a corporation, you know how to get promoted fast. Okay. And so that's just the way it was measured, right? You know, something was different. So for example, he might, you know, do something like this and do something kind of crazy. And people would fly, you know, Doesn't make any sense. Well, you have to see that, you said, well, he has lots of tea. Yeah, of course. But, I really had to admit that the people on the mat were doing the techniques better. So what do we want to aspire to? Those times we're talking about Aikido as the art of peace. Somebody, energy comes in, you don't escalate it, you basically. What? It comes in, emotion. Just it was relaxed and fluid, and she's even loving and accepting. I was thinking, oh, that's very cool. All that stuff. I see that. And so when we start to measure, okay. I get better that way. I do. I mean, I do this for a while. Then other things come out of that. We had this crazy super flow where all these wonderful things would happen, but that you couldn't explain because the other people were doing the physical movement better than him. But he had access to dimensions way past what they were. In fact, I looked at him and I said, they're kind of hypnotized by the pattern of movement, and he's not. Okay? So that's kind of what we're after with flow. Flow's not heavy, although it'll feel lighter to you probably. Flow is not fast as flow, but a lot of times, for example, I'm miserable. That's a much slower movement. But the flow has a place or a vibrational rate that moves through you. So we're using certain things in the body, like the breathing starting to deepen, the heartbeat starting to coordinate with, synchronize with. You're grounded, but you're not set and heavy grounded. You're fluid. There's a kind of a non-attachment. And I was like, for those times that would say, he does that, people don't fall. He didn't go out there and beat himself up or yell at you. He'd kind of do some crazy thing, make a sound. Then he was back into that super flow state. Okay? Right? So, one of the things we're doing is by getting more in touch with ourselves on an interior level, learning to breathe, learning maybe to see the movements as what is flow? Flow is a very deep topic. Well, I like it when things flow because things are fun. Flow is more than having fun, but you might as well have some fun doing something. And when things are too heavy, you got to win. And oftentimes you don't. But in flow, there's a win-win here because he's in the experience of what a flow experience is, albeit from the bouquet standpoint. And then we switch roles for whatever it is here. All right. I do more of the noggin role, but I spent a lot of years being flipped around. And I'm grateful for it because there's an area where I get, at least I oftentimes experience this flow and I'm trying to nage and win, I don't. Okay? So one of the things we can do here. Lighter, freer, less rush. Ground, but it's not like it's set heavy ground. Fluid. Your hips are loose. Your mind is, you get very busy. The busier the mind is, the heavier the world is. That's going on, but we think a little deeper. It's more of an experiential sense of ourselves. And for that, the bodies are very useful. Cool. My weight settled a bit more here. And feeling the ground a bit more. chest and heart are opening. I'm just tired of being beaten by the heavy world out there. No, there's no heavier light. Flow is right in the moment. Now, what we can do also from here, for example, we're going to rotate back. Come on in this way. Come here a little. You got to slow back if somebody comes at you a little different. And two into the pattern. Oh, there's a hole. Okay, so go here. So we have real territory, and we have the equal motion here. We're in the tempo. Okay, well, so let's change partners. Check yourself out and see it and thinking about it. That's good. You need to do that. But when I'm in the flow, I'm clearing as opposed to thinking. And so the actual, even though it's visual, becomes somewhat more of a feel experience. Okay? Let's change partners. Hi. Okay. So your form's fine. You're relaxing a bit faster. But I want you to be a little freer. Your form is fine. I want you to be a little freer. Freer. You see what I mean? It's a little bit like the form is good. Now, flow isn't form plus. That was the big thing in the docent system. Yeah, look at the Rio Sensei movies. There were no videos then in the 70s. And the people on them doing the technique better than him. I said, no. It was the last thing. I was like, well, what's he doing? Yeah, because, he was so sensei. So, it was surprising that really people didn't pay much attention to them. Because they were so, the pattern of the movement, the form was taking all their, and so they were getting better within a heavy dimension of kind of doing the movement better. And there was just some flow that came through that. But he was so fluid, you haven't to grab it, and he was so fluid. And so it's a shame that we don't tap it more. We don't lose the pattern of movement. You see what I mean? So what I'm asking you to do is okay, now you're here and you're much more relaxed and there's flow in your movement. Good. Now there's flow. It goes the other way. In other words, I'm going to do the movement better, there'll be more flow in my movement. There's something called flow that comes through you. It's personal. And then it goes into the movement you're doing. And what happens right there is you free up. You free up. It's alive. And there's an area where, when you're younger, you're running around and being thrown around. As you get older, you know, it's important for us to go, well, you know, I can't really do all that up and down and everything like that. But the experience of that, whoa, is something that is saying, wow. And you know, it doesn't mean you're reaching for it, trying to do it out there, whatever the movement happens to be. Yeah, yeah. So what I'm asking you to do, he's going to attack. It's just easier there. Yeah, yeah. Now let's keep going. Now all of a sudden you come the other way. Okay, you're doing the movement better than some flow. But we want to kind of reverse it a bit. There's something called flow. It's a very personal approach to me and into the movement. So I'm wanting you to kind of switch it. Yeah. And what does it feel like? I'm kind of in a place of wonderment. That's what I thought. The those says I said I was going to have that twinkle in his eye. Yeah, I see something else. Oh, wow. You come in this question. Boom. Okay. He thought it was the coolest thing going, you know, and everybody else was so caught up in the, yeah, everybody else was caught up in the pattern of the movement that they took, you know, said, come on, you guys, you come to a great banquet, which you're afraid to eat here, and I'm showing you that this is really tasty stuff, you know what I mean? But he was coming from a different place. And sometimes we lose it because, you know, the techniques are good, and the training is this wonderful position, wonderful place to train, good ventilation. That's Aikido, man. When I first started, I was a university student. There was a club at Santa Cruz at the university. This is the only dojo in the whole area. It was on South Coast Street. Yeah, it was a big thing going to an Aikido school, which we would do every month. And those sensei would work with Robert Fraser sensei this month. And we work energy. We work our sensei stuff. You know, and then, you know, unfortunately, everything Aikido moves in, everybody gets into the form of it and the ranking of it, which is important. The structure is important. But there's an area where we kind of want to reverse it. Flow existed before anybody ever did an ECL. Well, yeah.
Layers away to get there.
Yeah, well,
Like not building on, it's like removing.
yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, you can get better at packing more layers on. The technique is better. Yeah, I know.
But I got a fun layer there.
Yeah, that's why it was a really funny thing when the docents that check the movies out to find the people are doing the techniques much better than once I get, oh my God, he's right.
From a technical way.
Yeah, because that's where their attention was.
Yeah.
And his attention was somewhere totally a different universe.
Yeah. If he was past the technique.
Oh, yeah, by several light years. Yeah. Okay, so keep going. Okay. Yeah. So just remain standing for a second. Let's see. Heavy. So I got it. Flow has to be lighter. The flow is slow. And so where does flow start? It starts more here. But, you know, there are certain things that I find, for example, I'm caught up in the heaviness of the situation, and it's a form I'm going to get better at within that heavy level. The flow oftentimes feels like things lighten up. Or conversely, you know, this is the technique, this is what we're doing. And flow may feel like you have more freedom. But we're still measuring flow against heavy. Okay. I like all this stuff, but I don't know whether it really works. You know, that sort of thing. The other thing the docent told me that I thought was interesting was, you know, he started martial arts pretty young. You know, judo in those days, he was 5 shows, And somebody do a judo move and they go, oh, martial art. Well, he did judo when he was like a teenager. And he was into like yoga and bodybuilding and all that stuff. He actually, at one point, ate a very healthy diet. I'm sure he still smoked then, but that was another issue. But what would happen, he would meditate to get into these very, very advanced dimensions. But then, his question was, can you do that here? This is a heavy world. Okay? And so he goes to Japan, and his original thing is he's going to get a, those days, third-degree black belt. It's big. If he did a third-degree black belt in judo, aikido, and karate, he'd be pretty much unique. But he goes to Japan with this question, really. Can we somehow come from the finer dimensions here? And the reason he really stuck with aikido, because he was into other martial arts, if you look through those things and says, yes, if he's doing it. Yes, Mado Sensei said that's the one thing he learned from O Sensei. The finer realms flow encapsulates a lot of that. As you get into the finer realms, so the flow gets finer. Then he looked at those Sensei and said, he's doing it. Yes, it's possible. Okay, so if we get that, here's a boom. Okay. So we'll have you do a switch just for a little bit. If your knees are not dead, stay standing. It's not about punishing yourself. But one of the things about this flow, for example, is that your hips free up. All right, my hips. Yeah. I go and the hips free up. The hips loosen. The thought patterns start to kind of dissolve a little bit from being able to see this way. So your movement. Okay. I'm going to have you change partners. You're just going to go down to the sweaty Wada level for a bit. A lot of flow starts not out there. I think it's supposed to be lighter. No, here. The hips get more fluid. Your breathing deepens. Your mind sort of quiet. Okay? Huh? Exchange partners. Sweaty Wada.
How are you? Good. How about you?
Not the miniature like the Italian.
Yeah,
What is it?
that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, you feel the difference right there? Right, because it's so easy to get, and now I'm going to do the technique. Oh. But, I mean, the whole thing is about, if possible, de-escalating. but you're relaxed. You're on top of things. You know, I never hear it's like, boom, you too. Yeah. You have a gun, you have a nightstick, but you don't want to go in there leading with your gun and nightstick unless it's already a gunfight, right? I mean, that whole thing with Kyle Rittenhouse is that, you know, basically you take an assault weapon to already charged things, thinking you're a superhero, what's going to happen? You're going to kill somebody. Yeah, that's good. That's the real fear. I mean, Robert Koga talked about this one guy who was a really top wrestler. And so what he did is a leg takedown in a situation. But when he was doing that, the guy he took down reached, touched the officer's gun out and shot him. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, wrestling good, yes, but not in certain situations. You see? Yeah, so, you know, I mean, yeah, okay. All right, anyway, keep going. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. You feel that's your zone. That's where your center is. Right? You can both execute if you need to, or you can just let be. You know, you're kind of cool here. You know, okay, good. So a couple of things here coming in this room. The flow is not heavy or light, but it's slow. Now he's a felon because he's got some weight in. Okay, so what do I need to do? I need to lighten up. Because other than that, I get caught at his game that's heavy. Boom. He's ready. So on your good side. You feel this weight, relax a bit more. Feel this weight, relax even more. So, you know, when we open, I get it too. I said, okay, this is heavy, what do I do? But when you're in flow, there's no heavier light. So the more you feel weight, the more you open. And then, you know, what happens is it starts to flow. Well, your subject. I good. And that was the one thing I looked at, you know, when I was watching the Sensei movies after the Don't Sensei said that. That's really stupid. You don't Sensei is a technique instead of. I said, no, actually, the other people, you know, within they were into the weight and they were into the pattern of movement, the form. They did it better because that's what they were doing. And he was different. Whatever, he was different. He was different. Whatever it was he was doing was categorically different than. Right? That's kind of mind blowing. You don't think it was Sensei because his technique was better. No, Sensei because he was past that. Of course, his movements, oh yeah, he's doing an e-kill, but it was not like he was, you know, anal retentive on the e-kill better than anybody else. It was, right? That one time, you know, somebody asked me, those Sensei, at a retreat, said, well, how was so-and-so Sensei's technique compared to O-Sensei or so-and-so's technique? And what Nadoi Sensei said was interesting because what you're asking me to do is to compare the street corner contours to Christ. He said there's that big a difference if you look at it that way. It wasn't that his technique was better. It was just he was doing something. But sometimes just lost, and when we're just doing the technique, just something just the flow. It's the flow. Well, since it was better, it's in fact his flow was a super flow. Right, he's like, okay, I can't approximate that. We can play around a little bit sometimes, but we learn lessons this way. That's how we learn lessons. We always have beats for them. It's just a beat. Double beat, boom, boom. And so when you're hanging out in the flow, things are loose or clear, but really, even that is saying, okay, in the flow, things are loose or clear. No, that's how the body feels. In the flow, you get more done. You're not sloppy and you're not lazy. You're just smarter. And I mean, it's constant work because we want to measure everything. Like my docent said, now I get in all these advanced meditation states, but I don't know if it works in the real world. And he looked at our docent and said, oh my gosh, he's already doing it. So that's why he quit the judo, he quit the karate. He was even doing Chinese art, right? And so that was an interesting thing. I just remember that day. I was like, "It can't be right." And then, in those days, you had to wait to see a movie because YouTube didn't exist yet. Oh my gosh! If I could see what everybody else was into, and he was in something like mega light years different. Right? Yeah, I was like, wow. Anyway, keep going. Okay. Okay. Yeah, since I just stand up, stretch the legs for a bit. The other thing about O Sensei, I remember talking to the Do Sensei about some things. The Do Sensei studied with this Chinese master whose last name was Wong. And this is the guy that was so good that literally, you could pick him right there. And he had the ability to draw his testicles inside so it didn't bother him. And if you tried to kick his knee to take him out, it would be like kicking a steel stove. In fact, this guy was Tai Chi, Bakwa, maybe something else. He's doing a demo, and he looks fat and out of shape, and he's doing this, and there's a bunch of karate guys in the audience. They just flew. And so he finally says, come on. So he gets this one guy, and the black belt says, you punch this full collar. And of course, the karate guy goes like this, and Wong just kind of absorbs it and goes boom. And the guy, when he's doing this, cuts it. He breaks the guy's wrist. You don't believe this is any good? Well, come on. And so I asked the Do Sensei once, how come you didn't stay with Wong? Why did you study with O Sensei? And again, it was a real interesting answer. He said that Wong would do things like spend a whole day like this with his eyes like this. He would hold postures for like whatever. He had all these things he did that and the way the Do Sensei put it was, if I could do that, I could see where I could get like Wong. Wong just did things to the point where he basically got to be sort of superhuman. Okay? And so what he told me was the reason I studied with O Sensei was because I could see where Wong's power was coming from. If you can hold a posture like this for 24 hours, you're going to get pretty strong. Your interior power is going to build. There's a story once where Terry Dodson was also studying with Wong. And he was one of the living students of Homer Dojo. This is something Terry told me personally. And people like Chiba Sensei, Yamada Sensei, Kanai Sensei, they were kind of his training brothers. And so, they find out he's doing these private sessions with a Chinese teacher. And so what they're going to do is the session was at Meiji Temple. And what they're going to do is they're going to break in there, show Terry that the teacher is no good, and bring him back to Aikido with the Japanese. Okay? And so they show up, and Blom can take full power karate blows, or even boom, pull his testicles in, so you can't really kick him there. But Aikido, young, secret, so one of the teachers, anything you want. So I told the guy she was nothing really, so. And so, somebody asked, well, what else can you do? And they're like pillars in Meiji Temple. And according to Terry, he puts his hand to the pillar and the pillar starts to shake. And then the Japanese young teacher looked at Terry and said, "You got a good teacher here," and they left. So Wong was that good. He could take all this internal power he built up and do a lot of amazing things. So I asked him about something. Why didn't you stick with him? He sounded like he was pretty good. And those had a very interesting answer. He said, "Jack, I could see where Wong's power was coming from. So if I was crazy enough to do what he did, I could probably be like him." I looked at Sensei and I didn't know where his power was coming from. He was an old man. Well, he was not young, but he wasn't like old. What did he do? He moved his stick around. He chanted and prayed. And the doe was into meditating. So I said, I knew he meditated, but I didn't know where his power was coming from. So that's why I stuck with Sensei and I do those for going into the Chinese art. So sometimes, there's interior power, and there's little sensitivity to it. And so we're still trying to figure out what exactly it was he was doing. It wasn't that he built up so much interior power to do some things that other people couldn't do. It's like, right about his, and all of a sudden, he was doing something that was, and it's going to negotiate, say, what happens, he'd go like this and nothing would happen. Okay, he's gonna get his stand or get his stick and do some things like that, and all of a sudden, boom, he did out. So one thing that those that kind of said, I don't quite get what he's doing, but he has a process. He's not just flying blind out there. So, certain things in Aikido, like when you center, you position yourself so there's more flow possible. When you ground properly, not set ground, but ground in a natural fluid way, it allows more flow to come through. Basic meditation, for example, can get very mental, but when you learn to clear the eye out a bit, then what happens is the energy comes through in ways that are the flow comes through you better. And so he looked at Sensei, he's an old man. I don't see him on the mat every day at 6:30 in the morning. I don't see him, training. He just comes in, like the Sensei put it very, very easy. He just said, he would come in, do his magic. He'd do his magic. And he's gone. And most people would look at that and go, we want to do that. I got to get my workout. I got to get my next promotion. But I know it's like, so, that was the last thing that those Sensei said, essentially, not just meditating into a finer space, but actually coming from a finer space here. And Robert Fraser, who was, they were so close when I first started, he, was a PhD from Harvard doing postdoctoral work, and he switched. in behavioral psychology, he looks at those symptoms and says, you know, all a psychologist is about psychosis. Sit down, tell me your problem, we'll diagnose it. And he said, essentially, was the opposite. He was so healthy. He was so healthy spiritually. I mean, you know, physically he had issues at that age, but emotionally. That Robert Fraser, you know, he switched to what was now called transpersonal psychology. He said, Jeff, he really got me interested in mysticism. And here's boom. Yin yang. Well, perceptive, positive, you know, the wave motion. There was such a technique better than everybody else's. By the virtue of where he was coming from, yes. If you measure them according to what everybody else is doing with weight, maybe not. Okay, so within all that, you know, let's say this one this way. Yeah. Well, one thing that happens with the Shihonage is right about here, you start to feel weight. Okay, good. You use the weight because it gives you a direction. I'll go under the arm, I turn, weight gets more intense. So you open a bit more. Open. Just flow possible after that turn. You may lose just a little increment of it. But when you do that, it's almost like if Stephen Curry misses the shot, you know he's going to make the next one. I mean, it hasn't happened lately. You know, he's been in slump for a while. So I think you get what I'm talking about. And wait here. That's a trick. There's no sense his technique's better because he's good a technician. No. It's just that he was into the super flow of Aikido. Okay. Well, let's see if we can kind of work out just basic Shihonage rendering. Get this real capability, what I need for this. It's in the strength partners. Yeah, well, I'm working you to start a little bigger, okay? Okay. So there's that step back turn, a step back turn. There's a step back turn, there's a step back turn. That's the whole thing up. So I step back turn enough, when I'm stepping through, you don't weigh a lot. But when I get too caught up in that, she starts to weigh a lot. As I'm talking, boom, I got to reignite the flow. Not try to do the technique of it. All right? Right here, how much is it? Yeah, this one. Reignite the flow. Don't have to rest the technique. But I want you to get bigger. As you come this up, here's the same thing. Step motion, it's a step back. Okay. Yeah, we're but it's still the same motion. Oh. Okay. So once you make that first part a little, he slows, you get a little better. Just move within that. Any little movement, there's a lot of flow. But when you're first getting into it, it's better to do the movement bigger. And so, you know, you clamp onto me, and I go, oh, what do I do? Okay, I can be big on the inside. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's better. Yeah, keep on. That's your throw up. If you're too tight on that, step backs are going to be real tight when you step in and turn and throw. That's why the weight starts. But the weight starts here on the step back. When somebody looks at you, says, "Well, you're relaxed." Yeah, because you're calibrating flow. You can't be putting flow intense. There's a side benefit of it. Am I working on relaxing? No, I'm working on just calibrating my position and flow. And I know that certain points in the technique make me much more liable to go back into weight. And so I kind of double up on flow at those points. You see what I mean? Okay. Yeah. One thing right there. Slow past this wrist. Slow past this wrist. Yes, you got a wrist. Boom, boom, boom. When I took too much on the wrist, you're much faster I am. So I tighten.
Yeah.
Oh. What it's a little bit like is you're in a real stuffy room. You open a window. It's supposed to be breathing too hard. Open. Say it again. Just 99% there. Okay. Blow past the wrist. Yes. No, that's the wrist right there. Blow past. Yes. Keep going. Yeah. Keep going. Blow past the wrist. Good. Yeah. Now you're in your flow plus. Yeah. You feel the difference right there? Okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We're going to do about the same thing, but we're going to change one thing. Okay? Which is, okay, all right. Now we're going to, I put a grab out. Okay, thanks for the grab. But the strike is a little bit more like DK has more say in the matter. Okay? There's plenty with a yoke on it. Okay. So what we're going to do is like boom, feel that? Boom. Over here, and then we got that. So it appears that the attacker starts the movement. But what I could be doing, not waiting for this, but positioning myself more along flow. For example, a little weight, now I'm receiving a lot of the weight of the strike. So I'm already off. Then I got to test my balance, I'm running for a weight and bad things happen. Whereas here, boom, see, we're already, see, this arm doesn't attack me. There's some intention there. Okay, now, then we'll do right here. Because all of a sudden I feel right, then past that. Okay, now right about here. Let's turn around. So all of that, Sheila and I did was creating the situation where we got to turn around and you can either create a tight space for yourself or you're in a tight space, but your energy is very expansive. Flow is expansive. There's other things, but one of the things about it, it's really difficult for me, for example, to and tight and small to be in the flow. And part of, the interior trying to relax is your space around you. It's something was so good that, people would come to the dojo and say, it feels different. They'd say, oh, I think it's traveling, he's not here. The whole dojo would change when he was gone. And then the people would walk and they say, a block or so away, I think he's back. Because they could feel something. And then they go in and they find it, and say, I got him back. And so he was that good. His super flow was something that covered quite a bit. So right about here, what we're going to do, room, gives me a lot of time to gather this in. This is my usual advantage, I'm short. See, I have the edge here. In this tight space, my interior can sort of stay more expansive. Okay, so now there's the attack, which is not a grab, the strike, standard. Now right here is the punch. Okay? So it's very important right here. So you're taking the attention, but don't fall asleep. Well, things are so easy, but frame by frame, be present. Okay? When things start to get easy, and so easy, everything's easy, we fall asleep. In flow, you don't sleepwalk. In fact, you get sharper. Okay? Not sharper in the pointy way out there, but sharper as in things are coming into more relaxed, more generous focus. Let's change partners, switch to yoga now. Okay, so one thing I want you to do a little bit more is just a physics. So here's the tip. Keep your flow going out. Okay, so for example, here, I'm focusing on doing something, but you touch your flow. Okay, now right about here, I want to keep your flow going. I'm going to give your arm back to you. Okay? So I'd like you to focus on a little bit more right here. There's energy going out, keep it going out. Well, a little point, because your technique is right where it should be. But that's a fine point. Okay? Warrior gets this guy with absolute super athleticism. Anything from Linda. The shot's been consistent. And so, but they have a lot of good coaches. He says, instead of shooting here, he's positioned this way. So it took them 2 months, and then the shot looks good. He may not make them all, but he's a much more relaxed natural shot. It took him 2 months. Okay. Now, this shouldn't take you 2 months, but, come on in. Good. I want to keep this flow going out. So go again. Whatever hand he comes in, good. Keep that flow going out. Yes. You see how much easier it is? Because your technique is fine. But the psychology, you don't want to throw him. You want him to tip his own energy back. Okay? All right? Okay, Barbara, what do I want you to do? Your technique is good, okay? If you're way too concerned with him, you're more concerned with yourself. Oh, how do you see?
Control.
Yeah, see what I mean? Hey, look, I'm too concerned with you. Now, I don't want to go away from you, but if I'm too concerned with you, I'm not me, and therefore the interaction is going to be less than it should be. Okay. So right about here, yes, I want we're doing this together, but I want you a little bit more attention on you. You see what I mean? More relaxed, clear, more open. You see that feeling right there? You're giving up some of that to him, and you don't have to. Keep going. Yeah, good. Yeah, so that's nice. It's a good zone. Okay. Well, that's fun too. Just some people. Okay, now try one with me here. So right there, you're looking into my eyes. See the room with soft eyes. Okay? Yeah, feel the difference right there?
I do.
Now look in my eyes and do the same blend. You see what happens?
Right.
Okay, that's the only thing. Once you get into the flow, but there's still that tunnel vision right there, which means keep Donald Trump to get in your head. You're not Donald Trump, but I mean, we all do that. Oh, we are going to do that. Why do people support this guy? You know, he's getting into my head. I gotta go. Get out of my head, Donald. Okay, so. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine, isn't it? Yeah. Little tip, but good. Okay, good. One of the things I kind of wanted to mention is starting, well, actually started last week. We switched the noon class, video class, Monday. Okay, from noon to the evening. I'm back teaching at San Jose State, so I teach all morning. And then just line up the noon class after that. So we're going to trying the noon class video in the evening. And one of the things that we were been starting to work on a little bit is, we're talking about flow. So we're kind of doing a lot of the, some of the staff changes. One of the things about flow is you can go that way, or you don't stop to go that way. But that's right. But just the fact that things start to move through. See, what happens in the flow is initially it's kind of like this. But here, it's almost like the more points in that circle you touch, the freer it gets. There's a circle here, there's a circle here. And the more points I touch in that circle, the freer it is to kind of go dip out or like the reverse. But as you get more advanced, it's not a circle, it's a sphere. And the more points you touch in that sphere, so I can rotate this way, 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 this way. So we're kind of getting into, we're doing the 30 movement, but we're also getting into, this is one of the best flow exercises you can do. And, past flow is what I would call the zone. Okay, for example, here, when I begin to touch the zone, there's this movement and this movement. But there's a hesitation here to here, but in the zone, that's one move, and that's everything. You're touching almost, in theory, more and more points of the sphere. Okay? But when you get a gap like this and this, to hold that for me. So see? Okay, now what we're going to do is just see. Now here I have a gap. Now come on in then. What are you going to, okay? But if we can, for example, here, what we're doing is flip that. That's one motion. When I'm trying to do that, I'm graduating a little bit from flow to the beginnings of what I call the zone. And for example, we do the same thing right here, and he turns into me right now at this point. Okay, but I'm here. You remember, a lot of IQ works these changes where you're going this way and you go this way without breaking anything. If he's coming in this particular way, go this way, and we'll go this way without breaking anything. That was what I kind of noticed, I guess, on some level, when the docents just watch the movies. The people are doing the technique better than Osensei. But what was Osensei doing? He was in some sort of zone where his changes were way past what the people doing the technique better were. Okay? So one of the things right here, if we happen to grab here, so you see the movements start to be very fluid. That's really very much like that. Your movements become circular, then they sort of become spirals, and then eventually what happens is it becomes spherical. And the more points you touch there without reaching out at a touch, the more flow you have. And so we're getting a little bit into, on the Monday nights at least, we're going to try to get to where we can get people with a bit more fluidity, which is one of the aspects of flow. There'll be class tomorrow night. It's 7:30 to 8:30. So if you're like tuning in, it's not something we're used to, but I'm going to die teaching San Jose State and then that. So I pushed it to the evening. Okay. But for example, here, so there's this motion, there's this motion, there's this motion, there's this motion. Each of those is like the staff movement. So, well, if you're interested in it, because what happens is come to the dojo. We got one class like this right now. There's a Wednesday class, but that's much more limited because everybody's got work. But this is kind of a good gathering class, You can kind of see the actual movement of the staff, you begin to see the natural patterns of flow. And it starts circular, goes into a spiral, and eventually it becomes spherical. And your point here is under that sphere, or circle, or spiral, and there's a fluidity. And what I saw with those things, I wasn't worrying about the technique. It was so much a part of the superflow zone. Almost anything you did was fine. He created such harmony with his partner. But the partner and he were so a part of that harmony, when somebody would try to break that harmony, the harmony would just reintegrate itself. There's no way he could be beaten. He used to tell people, I can't be beaten, and everybody goes, and I thought, what an arrogant statement, right? But in the sense, they said, no, when he's in that zone, he can't be beaten. Doesn't necessarily mean when he's having a bad day or something, but he knew how to get to that zone very quick. Okay, so a lot of the movements of Aikido, for example, here, there's this motion, and there's this motion, and there's that pull right there. There's this one, hips is out. And that's where I say, to me, it's the beginning of a zone. That's where Stephen Curry can't miss. Or, we're using sports, but that's usually where it is, or where Einstein did his research, something like that. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to put this up. Thank you very much.